So I am presenting on October 10 Days That Shook the World, and I want to open the room to any questions that anyone has. Yeah.
What is the significance of the lack of dialogue in such a politically active film?
Yeah, so, there wasn't any speaking in the film, so there's definitely a lack of dialogue on that front. And that definitely conveys to more of a shot, emphasized film instead of, people speaking with words. Yeah.
Hi Dylan, this is John. Great stuff. But if the government feared the reaction of the film, how was it allowed to be made and distributed?
Can you repeat that one more time?
If the government feared the reaction,
Uh-huh. So I don't know back then how the distribution worked, and I'm assuming they overthrew the government, and then the Bolsheviks kind of took over, so they were allowed to release whatever they wanted to. It wasn't really up. I mean, the government at the time wasn't in power anymore. But good question. Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a scene where you felt like dialogue should have been dialogue should have been needed in the scene, or did you feel like it was not throughout the entire movie?
Yeah, when the Russian regime was kind of would gather and speak prior to them overthrowing it during the end of October, it definitely would have been very helpful to have them speak, to kind of see what they were talking about, know their game plan, as well as Lenin and the Bolsheviks kind of game plan prior to kind of the peak of the revolt, which was kind of the end of October. Yeah.
Since there was no dialogue, was there anything like intertitles or really strong body language or other music that kind of helped without the dialogue?
Yeah, so there's definitely an emphasis on close-up facial expressions to express emotion throughout the film. There was also an orchestral background, when people were scattering or running through the palace. It would get very, very emphasized, the music, as well as during slow moments it would be slow. So that definitely played a role in kind of making more emotion of the film. Yeah.
How did the Bolsheviks seize power during those 10 days?
Good question. So when Lenin came back out of exile, he spoke to the Bolsheviks, and then he kind of expressed his plan, and then they all it was honestly kind of mayhem, and it was 10 days of them, and then once of them kind of fighting, and then once they reached the palace, it was kind of all game over from there. Yeah.
In your presentation, you said he used intellectual montage. Why do you think he used that rather than other montage techniques?
So I think, that was a great way to express emotion without without any dialogue or words. Using short clips of two kind of independent variables to bring together a kind of connection was definitely very helpful for Eisenstein throughout the film. Yeah.
So I noticed that most of the shots, including your presentation, had strong contrast. How do you think the roles of lighting and shadows enhance Eisenstein's intellectual montage? Yeah,
so it was a black and white film, so the shadows were a little tough to make out. With that being said, he definitely strategically kind of clashed two different sets of scenes to kind of run together and build off of each other as the film went on. Yeah.
How was the intellectual montage executed in this film? What objects and things did they show, and how did it make you feel, and how do you think it was supposed to make you feel?
Yeah, a lot of facial expressions were definitely emphasized throughout the film. And also through the battle scenes was trying to convey the violence and what actually went through the kind of 10 days that shook the world. Yep. Yeah.
Do the characters act in masses throughout the film, or is it on a more personal basis to portray focused attention on certain individuals?
That's a good question. You know, there was a lot of scenes from a bird's eye view that had you know, people scattering and running that way, running this way, and then there was also kind of an individual feel of kind of solo shots on Lennon, and yeah. So I think there was kind of a broad spectrum of different shots that, you know, he was trying to use to convey specific meaning to the audience. Yeah.
How do you think this film kind of related to or kind of compares to Eisenstein's other revolutionary film, Battleship Potemkin, that we watched in the beginning of the semester?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I can't remember the year of when Potemkin came out. Can you remind me? 25. I can't remember specific shots from Potemkin, but speaking on behalf of October, it was, you know, the shots were, you know, very montage emphasized, which I would imagine would be where kind of Potemkin kind of sets as well.
Thank you very much.